Chris Cowlin. Fan cams. Club news. Transfer news. Match previews. Legend interviews. Spurs women. Press conferences. Covering everything Tottenham and England.
Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat Podcast. In this edition, we'll be talking about another friendly, another win. That is now 3 wins out of 3. Vissel 2, Tottenham Hotspur 3. Now, the game has literally just finished. Vissel took the lead after 9 minutes through Osako. Pedro Porro equalised for Tottenham in the 16th minute. Then Heung-min Son put Spurs 2-1 up in the 48th minute. Patrick equalised for Vissel in the 64th minute. And then 16-year-old sensation Mikey Moore got Tottenham Hotspur's winner 2 minutes from time. 54,255 fans watched the game in the Japan National Stadium. As I said, it is 3 wins out of 3 during pre-season so far. And we have the K-League All-Stars up next on Wednesday. And then, of course, we face the double-header against Bayern Munich, one in South Korea and one at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. As per usual, we are live on YouTube, we are live on X and on Facebook. So please do get involved. Give us your thoughts, give us your comments. Tell us how you are feeling as a Tottenham Hotspur fan right now. The youth shone yet again, and I tell you what, that is a great problem for Ange Postecoglou going forward for the brand new 2024-2025 season. As per usual, I've got 3 very special guests with me. Actor Ricky Norwood is back with us. Rick, how are you?
I'm very well, my friend. I'm very well. It's great to be back on. It's great to be back on after a win. Of course, it is pre-season. It is a friendly, but we saw some really nice patterns of play and some really strong green shoots. So happy to jump into it with you and the gents today.
Well, great to have you here yet again. We've also got channel regular Gareth McGuinness with us. Of course, he is a UEFA licensed football coach, and we love his views on this channel. Gareth, how are you?
All good, Chris. All good, Chris. Really, really happy with the performance of the players. I'm sure we'll get into it as we always do, but it's just a breath of fresh air to see Spurs back. Missed it so much over the summer. We spoke about it after the Hearts game. The Euros just didn't fill a hole in my stomach. But see, watching the Spurs team pre-season gives me so much enjoyment. So delighted it's back and delighted we're not far away from the new season starting.
We've also got a brand new guest with us. Welcome to Paul Batey, Spurs YouTuber, also known as Hotspur Hippie. Paul, you're very welcome. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad, man. I was working up a sweat watching the game. Those conditions, I got through about 2 cans of Brute 33. It was awesome.
Now, you're originally from London, but you now live in Sydney. Of course, you are a Spurs YouTuber. You've been running your channel for the last year or so. How's it all been going? How did you get into Tottenham? Why Tottenham?
Oh, dude. Well, I was it was in 1976, and I had a football with all the teams written on it, and I thought I need to support a team. So I threw it up in the air, and my finger landed on West Ham United. I thought, I don't like the sound of that, so I did it again. And there was Tottenham Hotspur, and then we were relegated the next year. But then it's all been upwards from there. So, I used to go in the 80s. I was a season ticket holder from 84 onwards. First season ticket cost 35 quid. So, that's why I've got a big, long grey beard. But moved here in 95, and I'm buzzing. I'm looking forward to the new season.
£35. I don't know what I'm wowed by more, the £35 or your beard. Paul, let's start the show with you. Of course, Vissel 2, Tottenham Hotspur 3. Of course, we've all been raving about these youngsters. I've been raving about the development squad for the last 12 months. Certainly, I think that this group of players. I haven't seen a group of players like this for a very, very long time in our youth system, in our development system. Of course, the under-21s won the Premier League 2 title last year twice. And we didn't just win it, we walked it, really. Some of these players have been fantastic. And, they've been banging on Ange Postecoglou's door. A number of them have been given opportunities in this tour, going to Japan and South Korea. How impressed have you been by the youngsters, and what did you make of the game today?
Yeah, I mean, they're sort of they're putting their case forward, aren't they? The only question mark I'd have is that I don't know if the opposition teams are putting on some of their youth at in the second half as well. But like the way they're linking up. I mean, you can tell they've got an understanding with each other, and they do look like they've got a bit of class about them. So I don't want to get too running away with it though, because they are young, and you've got to stay humble and keep your feet on the ground. And I know they're watching me all the time, so I don't want to, give them big heads or anything like that. But no, I enjoyed the game. I thought that was I know we let 2 goals in, but I thought that was the most fun I had in pre-season so far. It was pretty cool.
I know what you're saying, Paul. Don't get carried away. I know we've beat Hearts, we've beat QPR, now we've beat Vissel Kobe, but it is fair to say that J-League side Vissel Kobe are right in the middle of their season. They've played 24 games so far. Very, very sharp. Their fitness is fantastic, and they're very used to that 35-degree heat. Ricky, let's come to you. What did you make of today's game, and what have you made of pre-season overall? 3 wins from 3, but I know at this stage, even if we played 7, 8, 10 friendlies and won them all, you don't get carried away because the Premier League is so different.
Yeah, we all know what preseason is, and we all know what these games are about. But what is great to see is that they are building game in, game out on ideas, on tactics, on movement, their understanding of each other. There's a real freshness about this group right now. You've got the guys that basically had the whole of last season under Ange, and you've got those that are coming through and those that have been introduced, young, fresh, hungry players to come in and want to prove something. And it's looking like a really nice blend right now. We also haven't seen, the likes of Bentancur, Romero, Dragusin, Van der Ven. So there is there's such a ceiling, there's no ceiling actually. Like the boss said, there's no ceiling, there's no floor. There's such positivity running through this side that it's a really exciting place to be right now. And the fact that they can also, in these 3 games, kind of experiment. They've experimented with shape. They've experimented with positions. Look at Donnelly. He's played at left back every time he's come on. And, as an attacker, or as fans, knowing that he's an attacker, you're going left back. But, we know our left backs don't really play at left back. They play in midfield and then get to attack in midfield and be at number 10. We saw your doggy last year, many a time in the number 10 position. So the fact that Donnelly kind of is gone on and is, again, not afraid to dribble, to go past people, to have a shot, to have a crack, this is great to see. It's been great to see in each friendly. And you can see that they, like I say, they're building. Some people were worried about Gray being at centre-back. But again, a player who's happy to play in these positions, a player who's excited by trying a new position and testing his skills. And for us, it's great because because we play such a high line, he's basically in midfield anyway, but you're going to ask him as a defender to kind of concentrate on those defensive qualities. But you're seeing how when he runs forward with the ball and, and when he has a little kind of, jinky run and gets challenged here and there, he's happy to go and take that. So it's just been nice to see these boys bed in. It's been nice to see a freshness about them. It's been nice to see them experimenting. And some of the experiments haven't come off. And that might be for fitness reasons. They might be knackered out there right now. Or they haven't worked out the timing of that new player's run or something like that. And that's what's really exciting about pre-season. Go out there and try it. Don't just play how we played last season. Don't just go out there to, play the whole first 11 and in inverted commas, get the win. Go out there and play. Go out there and experiment and go out there and build and not only your confidence, but your way of play, your style of play, and be kind of connected in that sense and that style of play.
Aussie Spur TV rightly points out that we have just won the J-League World Challenge Trophy. So another trophy in the cabinet. But as I said to Paul off air before we started, I want the big ones. We all want the big ones. We want the FA Cup, the League Cup. We'll take the Europa League or the Premier League. We'll take them all. Gareth, let's come to you. What do you make of today's game?
Chris, I thought it was a really, really good performance. I've seen extended minutes as well, and you can see that the team is building towards the Leicester game as the games come on. I think it was our first real test in pre-season because, as you rightly pointed out, we're playing a team and their season and their atmosphere and their environment. 24 or 35 degrees. They've played 24 games, as you said. And I think these are the best games you can have in pre-season because you're playing against the team that's on the peak of their season. And you could see that the game was competitive. The game was, I thought it was a really good challenge. A lot of people look and say it's Japanese league when you go to these places, but these are the games that you want. You want to have proper games. You don't want to be playing against and they're respectful. They Hearts. They were nowhere near the level that we are going to be facing this season. QPR game, I didn't think was a great game either, but this felt like a proper test. I thought the confidence, as Ricky said, these young players are showing is really positive moving forward. I think you can see a real identity at the club for the first time in a number of years. Jurgen Klopp was a massive thing for the Premier League, not just Liverpool. The way that has youth teams, when they played in the League Cup, FA Cup, a lot of young players come on and their team didn't change. They played the exact same way, regardless of the players they had at their disposal. And you can see that with Spurs. It doesn't matter now who comes into the team. You like Samir, Lancashire, Grays just came here, Bergville. They're all playing the same way towards a shared goal. And Chris, I think it's really positive moving forward. I think we have to be very patient because a lot of these players are young, but I think the next number of years look really, really positive.
Paul, let's come to you. I just wanted to get your thoughts on how you're feeling as a Spurs fan right now, because there are an awful lot of Spurs fans right now panicking about the transfer window. We will cover the transfer window towards the end of the show after we've spoken about the game. But I just wanted to get your thoughts now when you've seen a number of the youth players, coming through, getting minutes in the 3 pre-season games that we've played so far. And the one thing that I love is that every single player, every single development player, when they're getting minutes, they are taking and they're grabbing that opportunity, which is so important, going forward. And they'll certainly be banging on Ange Postecoglou's door for the upcoming season in the Premier League. But how are you feeling right now? Are you feeling quite calm about the situation? Because if I give you the dates, it's 23 days until our first game, Leicester City away, and 34 days until the transfer window closes. Are you panicking about the transfer window because Anne said that we've got to be patient, or are you quite calm?
Well, you're making me panic now, Chris. I was all nice and chill, but no, man. Look, I'm excited. I'm excited, and the new guys we've signed as well as the youth, like Archie Gray, he looks ready, doesn't he? He looks so comfortable.
Yeah.
And Lewis Bergvall, some nice touches, pirouetting around like Fred Astaire, or even Lionel Blair. Let's go the whole hog. I'm excited about this new season because I've seen Ange do this so many times before, and I think it's not just changing personnel wise. Second seasons are good. I think it's muscle memory. The players they've had to think about the way they're playing in this new system last year, and I think a bit of time away, it sort of will sink into the back of their brain a bit more. Like I thought Maddison was pretty good today. I haven't seen him play that well for a while. There's a bit wobbly here and there, but look, I think we still need a couple of pieces in the puzzle, don't we? I mean, for me, a centre forward, an out-and-out striker is the most important thing. But, I'm not saying this is the guy, but Will Lancashire looks like a striker to me. But I think, we need a proper, not a proper one, that's a bad way of putting it, a more mature seasoned pro. But no, I'm excited, man. You can't make me panic, Chris. I'm not going to let it happen, man.
I'm not panicking. I'm very calm. Don't worry about that.
I saw you on, was it Talk Sports? We need signings, man. I'm sitting there, Chris.
We do.
Chris, I've just woken up.
We do need signings. We 100% need signings. But if we haven't got the signings on the 30th of August, I tell you what, I will worry going into the new Premier League season. But I'm not panicking as yet. I believe, as much as some people don't like it, I believe that Ange Postecoglou has been backed in both windows so far.
I think so.
And I live in a lot of hope that he is going to be backed in this window. And, after listening to him in the press conference yesterday, saying about being patient and about, getting the targets that you want and not just settling for any old players. And we have done that in so many previous windows under so many previous managers. We don't want to go down that route again. So it is very important that we identify the right players and buy the right players in that he wants and that he's going to take us forward. So if that answers your question,
Just quickly on that one, like I think you're right. I think Ange has been backed, or whatever the club has said they'll do for him. They're doing it for him, because if they don't, Ange is the kind of guy that will walk. He walked away from the Australian national team because they weren't backing him. They were mucking him around. He qualified them to the World Cup and walked away from a World Cup. You know, he's a man of principle.
Paul, let me ask you about the one-touch football today, because that's something that really entertained me today, and it reminded me very much of the first few pre-season friendlies that we played under Ange Postecoglou last year, particularly in Australia. Well, of course, the Thailand one was cancelled, but in Singapore as well. The one-touch football, particularly in the final third, because Ange Postecoglou himself has been very critical of the Tottenham Hotspur team last season in the Premier League, that in that final third, we really, really do need to improve. Kulusevski was a standout player in the first half today with the one-touch football. What did you make of it? Because we kind of lost that one-touch, fast-flowing football, in the middle and towards the end of the Premier League season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same, man. I love that sort of stuff, that sort of champagne football. It's exciting. It's risky, you know. The players have got to back themselves to be able to do that sort of stuff. And so I think when they don't get it quite right, you've got to just accept that and just, that's part of them increasing their skill. Oh, a couple of the link-ups I saw with one, I thought old Jed Spence and Mikey Moore were linking up really nicely as well. But, it's when you get that sort of, one or two quick touch football right, it just becomes devastating. Teams can't deal with it. And I think it was decent opposition today. I know some people in England might say, it's only Japan or whatever, but they are the champions and they're in the middle of their season, and they gave us a good game. So, but our one-touch stuff was scintillating at times, wasn't it? It was very exciting. Put a smile on my face.
Well, I know it will certainly put a smile on Ricky's face. Ricky, let's come to you on that, because as I said, that one-touch football, that attacking style, Ange ball, as a lot of people call it. What did you make of us in that final third today? Because it was very entertaining, and it was like, those first 10 games of the Premier League season where we were sitting top of the league. I know some people were getting carried away, some people weren't, but that first 10 games of that Premier League season, what did you make of it today?
It was exciting. And that's what we want. And it was exciting with an end product. It was exciting with a shot. It was an exciting with something dangerous happening. And you can see that, especially like first half, like Paul was saying there, for me, Kulu throughout the preseason has been working on this style of play. The majority of last season, when we were speaking and we was talking about what is Kulu's best position, I always kind of said I liked him in the midfield. I think he could be devastating in the midfield. He could be confusing and bamboozle defenders in the midfield. And I think he needs to grow in that. But you can see what he's about. You can see his strength. You can see he's not afraid to turn. You can see his one-touch play as well. And when you're seeing that, it's just exciting, because we are such a fast moving side. We do have pace in areas, but the way in which positions shift and transition and move when we're on the attack and when we're on the defense, but the speed of it is so exciting. So when you do have those risky passes, when you do have those brave passes, and when those players are brave enough to play them and trust their teammates and trust if they make a mistake, that's, we're going to get it back. We know what's going to happen next. We know who's going to cover those areas. Just, again, breeds confidence, breeds that bravery, breeds that kind of, let's not worry about them. Let's worry about ourselves. Let's not worry about the opposition. Let the opposition worry about us. As long as we're doing our job, we'll be fine. And it just kind of continues to build. I think sometimes we've got bogged down about the opposition. Sometimes we've got bogged down about the personnel of the opposition and stuff like that. But by doing this, and yes, we're not at, the stage right now, we are building these levels, but by doing that type of one-touch play right now and getting it into the body and getting that muscle memory and having the confidence to make a mistake, maybe that's a better way to say it, to have the confidence to make a mistake and not be punished for it and not not let the team down by it, because you're going to work again to get that ball back, or you're going to work to put us back in front if you've made a mistake. Look at Sarr. Sarr never really makes mistakes, like massive mistakes like that. And he was there covering for that first goal that Kobe scored, and he was there covering, and because he was in a position, he thought he could get it back to the keeper. That's my idea of what he was thinking. He thought he could slide in and get it back to the keeper, but it didn't. It fell straight to the player. But the one thing, okay, he made a mistake and we conceded a goal, but the one thing that was great about Sarr is the way he got back up and was like, okay, all right, and almost forgot that action and started thinking about the next action. Started thinking about, okay, how can we get this ball up the field? How can we get back into the game? And how can we get things moving again? That's what's exciting for me to see. And, these players growing is, we don't know where they're going to go. Where we're seeing some of these youngsters, we don't know where Gray's going to go. You don't know how far he's going to go. We don't know how far Berg was going to go. We don't know how far Mike is going to go. Lancashire, all of these players. There's so many to talk about. Devine had a couple of great passes in midfield today. Abbott, we haven't really spoken about Abbott because there's so many players to speak about that we all almost miss what he's given to the team as well. So it is really exciting. Ever since they won that, ever since they've been winning through the leagues, the 18s and the 21s, wasn't it, Chris? I think back to back, wasn't it? Like the age groups. I started to think, and I didn't really want to say it, but I started to think about that, that class of 92 kind of thing, and kind of go, oh, easy. Have we got a group of players that not only have developed together, but can play together, can understand each other, and fundamentally have won together? Can a group of youngsters come in and kind of give us that? It's exciting to think about. Let's hope and pray, but we don't want to put too much on them, of course, but let's hope and pray and give them the backing. And when we talk about patience as well, I think we need to know that patience means when they make a mistake, or when they have a dip, or when they go 2-3 games out of form, that's when patience comes in. To know what their real quality is, allow them to have a dip, allow them to, to make a mistake, but to encourage them and support them and to keep cheering them on, because we believe that they're going to learn from that mistake and keep moving forward.
Gareth, let's come to you. How excited are you about this group of young players coming through? And although they're getting opportunities now in pre-season, how confident are you that Ange Postecoglou is going to give them opportunities in Premier League, in the Europa League, and perhaps in the early stages of the League Cup?
It's difficult, Chris. They say when he will introduce them. I think if you play too many of them at the one time, it could create panic at times, because these young players need to be nurtured as well. You're talking about Mikey Merce, 16, Lancashire, 19, Gray's 18, played for Leeds in the Championship last year, Bergville, 19. These are young. We're talking about teenagers here at times, so I think it has to be carefully planned how we go about it. I mentioned Jurgen Klopp earlier on. He tended to throw a lot of these young players into the League Cup, and they done quite well at times. But we seen what happened last year at Fulham when a lot of the squad players come on. Now I think a lot of these young players would be given more patience and more. If we did lose a game, for example, I think there wouldn't be as much of an overreaction. But let's just say Spurs draw. Let's just say they draw a Championship team in the third round of the Cup, and they go and play away from home, and he plays all these young kids and they get beat. All of a sudden, the fan base will be turning against the manager at times. So I think Ange is pretty smart. I think he learned a lot from the Fulham game in the Cup last year, that the Cups are important to Spurs, because realistically, we aren't going to be demanding they won the Premier League or if we're in the Champions League. We know there are going to be massive, massive challenges, whereas the League Cup and FA Cup is seen as the opportunities to go and win silverware. So I think when it comes to the League Cup this year and the FA Cup, Ange will be a lot more... He'll respect it a lot more than maybe did in that League Cup game last year. I can see him going pretty strong. You might see one or two of these kids. I can't see 4 or 5 in the same game, because you know yourself, Chris, when young players come on, they will have, as Ricky pointed out, they will have great games, and then there'll be our games they're quiet or they're poor, or even a massive thing for a young player when they first get introduced to first team football, especially in the Premier League level, is fatigue. They will tire. They have to be nurtured and looked after. So I think the signs are there, Chris, that a lot of these young players are good enough and are ready to step in when needed. But I echo what you said. I think the transfer window is very important as well, because we can't be relying on these young players to come forward. And I would imagine out of the 4 or 5 of them, you'll probably have one standout maybe this season that features more than the rest. And they will be the next big thing, you know, after Harry Kane, after Sean, that the Spurs fan base will rally around. But, you know, although these young players look good now, you'll probably think that maybe, I love to echo what Ricky says about the class of 92, and I'd love to see these young players playing, but you'll probably have 1 or 2 that make it, and the rest may end up elsewhere, or maybe when the Premier League comes, it might be too much for them. But I think they've done so well so far. They probably deserve an opportunity. But if we go down the road of relying on these young players, Chris, it could end up destroying them at times. So, Ange, I have full confidence in Ange. I mean, me and you spoke last year at so many games, so many podcasts, you know, and there's just something about Ange that I really, really like. I think he manages the team well. He represents the club well. There's an identity. Every game's exciting, although sometimes disappointing. We go out, they won every game, you know, and that's the way forward. You know, even if it means some pain, short term, long term gain is massive. And I think Ange is definitely here for the future. I think the club are backing him. I think his press conference was spot on. If you look across the Premier League, there's not a lot of business being done, although it is starting to happen now. I think with the Euros, the Copa America, it's a very delayed window. And I don't think transfers have ever been harder than they are now with the PSR rules. I think a lot of teams have to try and sell, they buy, and it's just the way it is. You know, we haven't seen too many mega money transfers. And as you said, there's only 34 days left. So I think the transfer windows are kind of changing a wee bit, and it's about being smart with your recruitment. Because I think Daniel Levy mentioned it a long time ago, we've made mistakes in the transfer window, and we can't afford them mistakes again, especially with these rules. So it's going to be an interesting 34 days. But look, Chris, I think the team is in such a good position. And if Leicester was Monday night now, we're Saturday here. If Leicester was in 2 days' time, I wouldn't be worried. I think the team's in good shape. Whoever we have, they start the season, I think, are more than capable of navigating the first few games. And the transfer window will take care of itself. I think we will get the players we want. I don't think the targets have deviated. I think Alan said that players we're still looking for are still there. So from what I hear, I think a lot of clubs are relying on replacements as well. So there's a lot of movement. We're going to see a massive domino effect in the next few weeks of players coming and going through various clubs. So, do you know what? I just can't wait till the season starts, Chris, because I think we're in such a good position. There's so much positivity, and there's something about these young players when they're playing as well, and the players that we have now, they're so likable. You know, even if they have a bad game, or as Ricky said, Sarr making the mistake, you know, you can see how much it hurts them. You can see how much they want to put it right. And I think Ange takes all the pressure off them by saying, I want them to do these things. I take responsibility. And when you're playing under no real pressure, because the manager wants you to play that way, it's very easy to express yourself. A lot of teams, and we've seen it under Jose and Conte, the players didn't express themselves. I think under Ange, they don't care about making mistakes because they know Ange wants them to make mistakes. They learn. So, look, really positive, and just I'm so excited for Leicester because I think we're going to be much better this season than we were last year in terms of our consistency. So, look, Chris, I just can't wait. I'm so excited.
Gareth, you're probably too young I don't even think you were probably born when Alan Hansen said on Match of the Day, you don't win anything. And then, of course, Man United won everything for years and years and years. Ricky and Paul will probably remember it like I do. But Gareth,
I'm far too young, bruv. I don't know what you're talking about.
You remember it. Yes, you do. Gareth, I just wanted to ask you, as a football coach and from your experience, how does Ange Postecoglou keep everyone happy? Because, like I said, you know, and I've said this now on 3 consecutive podcasts, including this one, that these youngsters are taking their opportunities, they're taking their chances, they're giving their absolute all. They're really impressing Ange Postecoglou, the coaching staff, the Spurs fan base, everyone, including all you guys, you know, come on channels like this. We're all raving about the development side and about what's happening. When those players, if those players do not get opportunities under Ange, because, you know, let's face it, there are only 11 spaces in the team and only a certain amount of spaces on the sub bench. When some of those players are left out, is it going to be harsh on them? How does he manage it? And also what I wanted to ask is when some players like Alfie Devine and players like Ashley Phillips, you know, they go out on loan, they play week in, week out. When they come back to Spurs and get very limited game time, although good game time in this pre-season, when the season starts, if they're still at the club, how does Ange manage that? How does he keep everyone happy?
I think the biggest worry, Chris, is outside of Ange and the team. I think these young players will know what's in front of them. And they know they're not going to play every week. They know they're not going to get regular game time. But I think it's the fans, Chris, that have to be very patient. Let's just say we play a team in the League Cup and he plays all these young kids and get beat. It won't be the young players that get blamed. It'll be Ange. They'll get absolutely hammered for playing all the young players they are. So I think he's smart enough to know that when they introduce him at the right time. I think, for me at the moment, I think Bergville and Gray are going to be part of the first team squad, if not starting and around the bench and featuring games. I think the likes of the academy players like Lankshear, like Murr, Donnelly, Devine, who's been very impressive. Devine maybe doesn't look as sort of mesmerizing as they are, but I think he's a very, very good player. He's very tidy on the ball. He plays forward. I think he's a real superstar in the making as well. But I think they imagine we start with a midfield of Devine, Gray, and Bergville, and it goes wrong. All of a sudden, people will be asking why the more senior players aren't playing. So I think it's a massive problem at times, but a really good problem. I think we'll introduce them at the right times. I think, you'd probably say to everybody, Lankshear's got the best opportunity to play, because if Richarlison isn't fit, and we want to see Sond on the left, who plays up front, because if you're looking between Lankshear, Valise, and Scarlett, you'd probably say Lankshear's been the more impressive in pre-season. So he might find himself with opportunities more than the others, because if you look at our midfield area, Chris, you're going to play with three midfielders, a 6 and 2 8s, or a 6, 8 and a 10. There's so much competition in there. So I'm not sure how many opportunities some players in that area will get. I think out wide, Mikey Murr looks frightening at times. I don't think we're blessed with opportunities in the wide areas. I think, we've spoke about Werner before. I'm not sure about him. I think he lacks a lot to be desired at times. Johnson, I think, has been very impressive in preseason. I think he'll be a mainstay. Where will Kozlowski play? Will he play off the wing? Will he play in midfield? So I think there's going to be opportunities. Son will play off the left. There will be opportunities for like Murr and Lankshear, probably more than the others. I think Gray and Bergville, although they've been signed to be part of the first team this year, they are probably more down the manager's thoughts this season. But I think Murr and Lankshear will definitely get opportunities, because unless we sign real talent, I think they are good options they have in the squad at the moment. So to answer your question, Chris, sometimes when we bring a player up from the younger age group, they play with our age group. It's about giving them, you balance their game time, you give them opportunities, you tell them to express themselves and not to worry about making mistakes. But sometimes it has a culture shock. And although this is pre-season, it was a good test today. It'll be very different to playing proper world-class footballers in the Premier League week in, week out. So, I mean, if we get one of these young kids to break out this year, and I'm speaking about our academy players, not the players we've signed. If we get a Murr or a Lankshear or a Devine, one of them breaks out this year and the other two do okay or go and do well on loan, I think that's a really, really positive outcome. I think sometimes, as much as it'll be great to see, if we play Leicester in the first game and you see Lankshear starting, Murr starting, Donnelly starting, Devine starting, everybody will be raving, going, oh my God, can't wait. And if we get beat, it'll turn negative very, very quickly. So these young players have to be nurtured and protected. And their journey isn't this year, Chris. As much as we love to see them playing this year, their journey is about the next 2-3 years and building towards being a sustained player on this squad. Because, Chris, we've been here before. It was only a few years ago, Troy Parrott was being talked about. Scarlett's been talked about. Oliver Skip was talked about as the next sort of, when Harry Winks was coming through. We've been here before with so many of these young players, and I think you have to be very, very patient. Although I think some of these young players, they look really, really good and the best we've seen. But if we're looking for the next sort of Harry Kane, the next world-class player to come from the academy, we've got the right manager. I think they find that, because I don't think there'll be much pressure on them. And I think their game time and their introduction to first-team football will be very, very patient and almost methodical. Like, I think he'll have a plan. Because I think Ange is very different to the last few months. I think Ange sees himself here for quite a long time. I think he's part of the project. He sees himself as being here in 4 or 5 years' time, almost like what Jurgen Klopp did at Liverpool. How many young players at Liverpool broke through the first team was incredible. They were very good in the transfer market with the recruitment, but so many young players come on, and when they come onto the first team, Chris, it was almost like they played there that long, because the top academy teams, and you'll know this from watching the younger players, they want the first team, they want the academy teams to be playing like the first team. So when they do come on, it's not a massive shock to them how it's expected. Of course, you're playing against different opposition, better opposition, but if they're used to the system, they're used to the way they're playing, it's a much easier transition. And I think for the first time, since Pochettino left, Spurs have that streamlined base of their playing the way the club wants right the way through the academy, from building the under 18s, under 21s, and then to the first team. And if you look at these players, Chris, yes, they have the ability, but when they come on it, they don't seem phased because they're training and playing the exact same way with their academy teams. So I think it's really positive moving forward. I think the biggest winner at the moment as the fans in the club, because we've got a manager, we've got an identity, we've got a recruitment team that are all building towards this team competing at the top end of the league. So many positives, Chris. I just think very, very cautious with these young players. Let them make mistakes, let them learn, and let them play.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gareth. I think it's very exciting for the future. However, I would say that in the next few weeks, Spurs still need to go out and sign a couple of decent players in this transfer window.
100%.
We'll talk about this soon. Paul, let's come to you. Let's talk a little bit about the starting 11 today. Vicario, Porro, Royale, Gray, Davis, Basuma, Maddison, Sarr, Johnson, Kulusevski, Son. Subs today: Austin, Gunter, Abbott, Spence, Phillips, Skip, Devine, Hall, Bergvall, Donnelly, Moore, Solomon, Scarlett, Valise, and Lancashire. Timo Werner missed out today through illness. And of course, we know that Radu Dragushin will join the squad for the trip to South Korea for the 2 games there. Kulusevski up front today, Heung-min Son out on the left. Paul, surely you'll agree with me in the fact that Heung-min Son is a lot more effective on the left. I know it was a bit of a surprise today, from some people that Kulusevski was through the middle. But as Ricky said earlier, we have seen a number of Spurs players throughout pre-season and, of course, last season under Ange. He loves versatile players. He loves using players in different positions. But, this debate I think we've had on this channel so often about, is Son better on the left? Is he better through the middle? Where do you prefer to see him play?
Oh, definitely on the left. Definitely on the left, because he doesn't take the ball on a half turn or pounce into those areas as much. Whereas on the left, he's really good at getting behind the player and delivering it in to whoever's running in. I think that was better. As far as the starting lineup, I was excited to see Big Vic between the sticks back. I think he's the Premier League's best goalkeeper, and he showed it again. I love seeing it where. Often when I see a goalkeeper trying to play football, I sort of clench a bit, but I'm actually excited to see what he can do. He's halfway up the pitch, sliding in with tackles. It's magnificent stuff. But Son on the left, and it was nice to see Johnson get a pass into the box on the money as well, because I've got a lot of time for Johnson. I just want him to do it. I know he's getting a bit of flack. But I see, he does the hard bit. He gets past a couple of players, and then it's like, right, Brennan, just get it in that little rectangle on the ground. Then it sort of goes off into space somewhere. It's like, no. So he just needs to calm down a bit. I hope he has a really good year. I like the kid.
I agree, but I do think he needs to improve. However, today he put that cross in for Heung-min Son, didn't even look up, put that ball in. Set Heung-min Son up perfectly. A fantastic cross. He needs to do more of that. And I think that all of us will be raving about him. Let me just run through some of the stats today. Shots, Vissel Kobe had 8 to Tottenham's 19. Shots on target, Vissel Kobe had 4 to Tottenham's 8. Possession, Vissel Kobe 28% to Tottenham's 72%. Passes, Vissel Kobe 261 to Tottenham's 696. Passing accuracy, Vissel Kobe 80% to Tottenham's 92%. Fouls, 8 apiece. Yellow cards, 1 apiece. Offsides, Vissel Kobe 6, Tottenham 2. And corners, Vissel Kobe had 3, Tottenham had 7. Paul, let's stay with you for a second. Out of the 3 pre-season friendlies so far that you've seen, who's impressed you the most and who's been the surprise package for you so far?
Oh, that's a good one. Who's impressed me most so far? Look, in a weird way, and I'm not saying that he, like I said earlier, he is the guy for the number 9 shirt, but I've been surprised by Will Lancashire because I haven't seen much of him before, and I just see him getting into centre forward striker sort of positions, and so I'd go with him. I mean, look, I have my cake and eat it with pre-seasons. If we don't win the games, it's just pre-season, isn't it? But if we win them, then we're going to win everything. So. I think our performances have grown, and like as far as the young men go, Mikey Moore, Lancashire, Tyrese Hall's been all right, and Donnelly was good today. I didn't think Donnelly was good up until today, but he had a good couple of pings at the goal today, so that was quite exciting to see. Yeah.
Paul, I'm going to throw another question to you. Of course, your first time on this channel. What have you made of the last, say, 5-6 years at Spurs with Pochettino leaving, Jose Mourinho, Antonio Conte, Nuno, now Ange? Do you think that Ange is the next man to make Tottenham Hotspur successful? Do you think he's going to be backed in every single window? Are you feeling really positive and optimistic about life under Ange?
I hope so. Look, before Ange, oh dear. So, you know, I'd question my sanity getting up at 2:00 in the morning, you know, watching a game, and then I'd put you guys on afterwards and I'd just go straight to sleep. But last year, I'd be like full of adrenaline. So I moved to Australia in '95, and it wasn't long after I moved here that I started hearing about Ange Postecoglou, like when he was Australian youth team coach. So I've been following him all along, and it was really when he went to Celtic. It wasn't just that they won all the cups there; it was the atmosphere. It was everything. You know, it was such a joy to see all those fans. The players, the manager, everyone was pulling in the same direction, and they were just having a party week in, week out. And then there's us with bloody 5 at the back, and oh, it's horrible. So, yeah, look, I think from what Ange is saying, it sounds like he is being backed. I don't think he tells porkies about that sort of thing. A little sign of it was to me that he got 2 2 coaches from the A-League. And I'm thinking if they're questioning Ange's decision-making, they probably wouldn't have allowed that. So the one thing I was hoping for when Ange came in was I think he's got the right personality to deal with Levy or the board or whatever to get his way. I think he can get the club under his control, whereas Conte especially was a bit too fiery, a bit too abrasive. So, you know, if he didn't get his way, then it was toys out the pram. Whereas Ange, I think, you can't say no to him. You've seen him, haven't you? You just can't say no to him. So, yeah, no, I think we're in good stead. I think we're going to have a better year this year. And I hope he hangs around for at least his full 4 years anyway.
Paul Kimberley from Oz Spurs is asking, are you a member of Oz Spurs? Of course, Kimberley is from Melbourne, so I ought to introduce you and put you two in touch. But if you're not, then get over to them and become a member.
Well, I'll tell you about Oz Spurs. I'll tell you one thing, because it says on Oz Spurs' website, come to the Surrey Hills Hotel in Sydney for that match day atmosphere. So I went there at 3:00 in the morning. It was shut. So...
Must have been Nuno and Conte, was it? Back in them days?
Yeah. I am a member.
For anyone listening on an audio platform, I'd love to describe how Ricky gave me that look when I started saying in the last 5 or 6 years under Pochettino, Jose, Conte, Nuno. He's like, oh, Chris, don't even go there. I could tell that look straight away. Ricky, let's get into the game itself. After 9 minutes, Vissel Kobe took the lead. As you said earlier, Sarr made a mistake. In my opinion, I think that everyone else around him made the mistake because they didn't tell him, that there was no one there, and he didn't even need to touch the ball. What did you make of that mix-up? Because what led to that goal? Emerson Royale gave the ball away in the first place, but it was a bad choice, for Sarr to touch the ball. But I just don't understand, during pre-season, during a game like this, where your teammates don't shout.
Yeah, I mean, you never know, mate. They might have had a bit of heat stroke, or the sweat might have got into their ear rolls. I don't know, my friend. The thing is that unfortunately, we kind of, when you say Emerson's giving it away, not really many Spurs supporters are kind of surprised by that. And what's really sad, because I tried to back Emerson, and I have. I appreciate.
He'll be in Milan soon.
I know, bro, but and then we can go in. No, No, but I see the qualities that he does have. I've seen his work rate. I've seen his will to try and to, and to be there. He's been there many a time when we've been in trouble, But when you say he's made a mistake, when Emerson's made a mistake, it's kind of like, oh, and do you know what, bro? To me, it took the replay to see that it was Sarr that made that mistake. I naturally thought because I know he'd done the pass, but in that split second, I naturally thought that was Emerson that made that mistake, right? And then to see it was Sarr, that was quite surprising to me. But look, man, it happens. And if you're going to do it, I like mistakes. And unlike Craig, I know he loves us to win in pre-season, but I like a good loss in pre-season. One, to figure out, because if you have just a winning streak, you're like, okay, you're not thinking about the dangers. You're not thinking about the things where other teams can hurt you, or you're not picking up on those things, and you're not getting to work on those things. So I always like at least one loss during preseason. I know we haven't got that, but at least during preseason, so that Ange and the boys can look at that and go, what did we do here that was wrong? Do you know what I mean? Or if we stop playing the Ange way, the Tottenham way, this is how we didn't win the game and stuff like that. So I do think it's important. But going back to the mistake that Sarr made, like you said there, Chris, really and truly, there should have been shouting. There should have been a bit more communication happening on that pitch. And it was a split second of switch off, where the brain switched off. And that mistake happened. Now, what needs to happen is that when they hit the dressing room and when they go back and analyze that first half, that they mention and they speak up and go, well, why didn't you shout at me? Like, you need to tell me. Like, make sure you shout at me next time. Can you let me know? I was covering your backside and then you went off on the other side, and that's how the gap was there. Like, that's what they need to make sure that is happening after these games, and not be kind of emotional with it. Not be, it was your fault, and then you get defensive. It wasn't my fault, it was your fault. Like, let's just say how it is. Be cool with it. We're all going to make mistakes in this squad. Every single person is going to make a mistake that leads to a goal or a time that we're in danger. Let's recognize it. Let's put it up in the air. Let's recognize it. Let's see why that happened, and let's attack that. Do you know what I mean? And you can. My feeling is that they're doing that. My feeling is that they're growing within that. My feeling is that we're getting to that stage. The only thing that Tottenham need right now are danger men. We need danger men is what we need. We need that attacking midfielder that is going to bang 15, 20. We need that striker, as Paul was saying earlier, that's going to give us that target man, or he's going to give us that guy that gets 20 goals a season and stuff, or can help with assists as well. 20 goals, 10 assists, something like that. That's the next thing that we need, which is the danger element, the kind of unpredictable element, the kind of you don't know what's going to come from them element, whether it's a shot from outside the box or a tap-in. That's what's needed next. But the foundations are there going throughout this squad. From first half to second half, the way that they introduced the subs, I thought even the way that they introduced the subs was clever. It was almost like in-game scenario. We're 2-2. We need to get a goal. Let's bring on we wasn't frightened to bring on the young ones and make them the game changers. And maybe that's what their role will be next season, will be the game changers, because they're not afraid to play. They're not afraid to go up against anybody from what I've seen so far. But maybe they become the game changers that come off the bench and come with their hunger, come with their energy, come with their kind of their kind of no fear play and go for it,
Yeah, I think you're right, Ricky. That last 15, 20 minutes or so, they were literally queuing up to shoot, which was fantastic to see. Gareth, let's come to you. Let's talk about Tottenham's equaliser, Pedro Porro getting Tottenham's equaliser in the 15th minute, making it 1-1. Kulusevski flick and Pedro Porro controlling it with his right foot, then finishing with the left foot. Talk to me about how impressed you've been with Kulusevski and Pedro Porro in front of goal. He seems to be a real threat at the moment.
Well, Porro, I think we've seen last year at times some of his finishings very good when he gets on these certain positions. He knows where the net is. I think it was great composure as well. They cut in with the right. They play past it. He didn't just strike it. He just passed it under the net, didn't he? It was like a real striker's finish. Kulusevski, we spoke about him so much on this channel, Chris. sometimes flatters they deceive, doesn't he? But he's looking more and more comfortable on that central role at times. I think on that right side he's limited because everybody knows he's going to cut on the left foot, and sometimes he's very easy to read. I think in the middle, as Ricky pointed out, I think at the start of the show, he's a bit more unpredictable in that middle, and he can link play, and the flick's becoming quite trademark. I mean, he done it against Hearts, didn't he? And he done it today, and it led the goal. And look, Chris, all 3 goals today were very well worked, very impressive goals. So, that's the kind of football Spurs fans want to see. I think that right side at times last year, and especially the first part of the season, was so impressive when you had Porro, Kulusevski, Son was banging goals on, Sarr was playing on the right of the 3 at times in midfield. And I mean, up until that Chelsea game, even the first half an hour of that Chelsea game when Spurs thought they were 2-0 up, if you look at that Vissel goal that Son scored, I mean, they ripped through Chelsea like they didn't know what to do, and I was at that game and I thought, oh my God, the Spurs team are like, anything could be possible because they were playing so well. But I think balance is important. And I think Kulusevski looks much more balanced than that midfield role. But the problem he's got is competition for places. Can Kulusevski and Maddison play and part of that midfield 3? I'm not sure, especially against some of the better opposition. Will he go for kind of 2 more solid players and play Maddison? So it'll be interesting to see what happens, because I think we've seen it last year when Kulusevski did play in the middle at times. He was shifted back to the right, and then another player come on the midfield when we played your Arsenals, your Man Cities, your Liverpool. So I think that'll be something that Ange is looking at. How does he navigate? How does he fit all these players on the system that's going to be Ange is bold and brave, but he's not stupid either. He'll know that certain players sometimes you have to make way. They be more solid, have a lot more steel. They allow you to compete in games. So it'll be interesting. I mean, picking up what Ricky says about the first goal that we conceded, I think you asked the perfect person, Chris, about being bamboozled and being. I mean, Ricky turned up away at Watford one time for a home game, so asking about players why they didn't do certain things. I think Ricky's the perfect man to ask, because you just don't know what's going through people's heads at times. But no, getting back to the goal, I think it was really well worked. I think all the goals in pre-season have been really well worked, and I think I don't know who posted it, but there was some Spurs account during the week posted about Ange's style of play, and they were saying, for me, it's just all about crosses into the box. I don't really see any patterns of play. That is a pattern of play. A lot of Spurs' goals are coming from crosses, and that's not by freak or by luck. That's by design. It is about getting the ball forward quickly, getting to the byline. And Brennan Johnson, for me, is going to be key for Spurs this season, Chris. I mean, I know we spoke about him when he signed, and I think Craig, the Spurs Chat podcaster, the regular, the linchpin of the show, he wanted somebody else. And I think, you know what, Johnson has so much more about him that he hasn't shown yet. And, he got 10 assists last year, and he could easily double that if he just gets that final part delivery, because he gets on the good areas, he works the ball well. And what I've seen from Johnson in these first few games is his delivery's coming much quicker and much faster. And when he gets the ball, he can, when he gets on the right area, because he can deliver a ball into the box. The one thing I'm slightly concerned about is who's going to be in the box to put the chance in the net, because if Son's on the left, he has to get in there. At times, we don't really have that focal point. And I know we're going to speak about the transfer window, but I've just got a feeling, Chris, there's a certain striker from Brentford that could find his way at Spurs. I just have a feeling that he will be the man that Spurs go to.
Tic-tac-Tony, he's on his way, is he?
I think so. I think he will be. I think Brentford aren't looking for huge money. I'm hearing something like 40 million he could be available for. I think he's a focal point. He can link play, and he's a bully. And especially, we were looking for a replacement for Harry Kane. I mean, he could actually be better than Harry Kane from a penalty spot. I've never seen anybody from a penalty spot as deadly as Ivan Toney. So I think he is your man and this Spurs team that goes forward. I don't think he wouldn't be my number one choice, but I think if he come in, I would still be happy enough, because I think he can do a great job, and he knows where the net is, Chris. And let's be honest, he's got that wee bit of arrogance about him as well, which I think he needs as a striker. He doesn't mind getting involved in the battles. He doesn't mind having. He likes to talk, doesn't he? And I think that's what we need sometimes. We lack sometimes that character, that personality, that kind of arrogance. That I'm the man, and I think we probably haven't had a striker like that since Berbatov. When Berbatov was here, he had that arrogance. you know, he was quiet, but with his voice, but he had that arrogance to play. Whereas I think Harry Kane was a fantastic player, unbelievable player. He never really got that arrogance, that sort of, you know, that nasty. And I think Tony's got that. I was at the Spurs and Brentford game, Chris. I was behind the south stand. I was in the 7th row, and the Spurs fans absolutely gave it to Tony. They hit him, they shouted everything at him. And I think that's the kind of player that we need. That kind of nasty, but efficient striker. And this kind of team with Johnson, Son, players that can get the ball to the byline, cross balls into the box. And he's also a fantastic player in the air as well. He scores headers. He's that all-round player. And we're talking about somebody can score a free kick. Ivan Toney can score free kicks as well.
Ivan Toney, you should have cashed out. I remember it well. Yeah.
They absolutely pelted him, Chris. They give everything to him in the game.
Yeah. Paul, let's come to you. We're talking about patterns of play there. In the 17th minute, James Maddison, a great ball to Heung-min Son. Son, first time pass to Kulusevski, who hit the side netting. 3 minutes later, some good football again from Spurs. Fast-moving attacking play. Kulusevski to Johnson, who was sadly offside, but you know, a great build-up play. 2 minutes later, Heung-min Son cutting in from the left. Goalkeeper saved it. And then I wrote down 3 times. Just before half time, we had 3 corners, all quite close together, and every single one was taken from the corner spot and played to a player on the edge of the box. Now, I remember back in the day, Anderson and Sheringham doing this exact move time and time again, the amount of times Sheringham scored from a corner. But what was sad, it was a lovely move all 3 times, a great move, great thinking, and obviously one from the training pitch. But we didn't seem to get a shot in on all 3 occasions, which was a little bit frustrating. What do you think of that?
Well, maybe Japan just got in the way a bit, because I know you mean, so it comes to the edge of the box and they sort of hesitated or try and line it up instead of just going bang. I was pretty impressed with James Maddison's new corner technique. He's not just putting one hand up now. He's putting 2 hands up. So I don't know what that does when you kick a ball, but
it'd be good in the Mexican wave.
Yeah, look, I don't know that corners. I just like to see it lobbed in the box in the corridor of uncertainty. But it's look, the signs are there up front. We had so much possession up there last year, and if we just get that couple of percent here, just tighten it with a spanner here and there, we could get 100 goals this year. So I like the patterns of play I'm seeing. I mean, it was to me, it was more apparent though when the young men came on in the second half. They were just fearless, absolutely fearless.
Yeah.
So we need a bit about that from our our preferred options, I think.
Well, Paul, let's stay with you. Of course, half-time it was 1-1. Ange Postecoglou made 4 changes. Austin, Bergvall, Skip, Donnelly all coming on. Vicario, Maddison, Davis, Basuma all going off. Skip then went in at centre-back. Archie Gray went in at midfield, the first time we have seen him. But let's go in the second half. 68 minutes, Spurs going 2-1 up. That goal that we spoke about earlier or touched on, Brennan Johnson crossing it in. Didn't even look up. Heung-min Son finishing it. Spurs going 2-1 up. What did you make of the goal? What did you make of the build-up play?
Oh, it was great, and it was like when Sonny fired off that shot. It was just like a real Sonny pose. The way, whoa, Ricky's driving it now.
Ricky's driving the ball.
Yeah, it was just the way Son came in and just took it on his stride. It was so elegant. And it's nice to see Brennan Johnson find that spot. I'm hoping now that he's done it once, he'll do it for another 50 or 60 times this season instead of, having to write your postcode on the ball so you can get it back. Oh, he's Chrissy's coming back. Oh, when Skip came on, when they scored, I thought that was a bit of a comedy goal when Skip came running in and it was a whoop, 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 whoop. He kept on going. And and then Vissel Kobe scored a goal. But yeah, it was a great goal. Really, really nice. Really nice to see. Proper winger to winger goal.
Ricky, what did you make of James Maddison today, and what did you make of him in the last 3 games? Do you think we're going to see the best of James Maddison again, like we did in the opening 10 games of last season before his injury?
I think that James Maddison's going to be on fire, honestly, this season. I think the way that he came back, the way that he started last year, and the way that he was on fire with us, and he was getting all of the love, all of the energy, all of the momentum, that injury really knocked him for six, because it wasn't just the injury, it was the recovery of the injury, and then wanting to get back, and then not being up to the level that you was, and almost chasing that to try and kind of perform at your level. And I mean, there was moments, but it didn't really kind of work towards the end of the season, and he missed out on that England squad, and he should have been in that final. I think, we had this conversation before the squad was picked, and I think that even though he had a bit of a kind of, a bit of a season of two halves, let's say, that if he was in that squad amongst those players, being amongst the elite, I think that would have done loads for his confidence and that kind of footballer ego, and kind of encourage him to kind of be the best that he can be, so that when he comes back to us, that he would be flying. The fact that he missed out on that, I think, is going to fire him up again to kind of go, oh, okay, so I missed out on the England squad. All right, cool. We didn't have a great end to the season. I think, this year I'm going to show everybody. And I think that he wants to be that important player. He wants to be that guy that makes a difference for us. He wants to take that responsibility for us. And I think that he's going to be really determined to go out there and kind of show the league, the fans, and all of those kind of the New England manager what he is about and what type of player he can be. I think he's going to be really determined to kind of go out there. And today, well, over the last the 3 games, but today especially, you could see he was very much a tempo dictator. He came back. He was sometimes short passes to get something moving, sometimes a nice long pass. He had vision. He was back. He was using that turn again that we saw in those first 10 games. He was using that kind of shift one way, and then he almost backs onto that shoulder and then turn, and then goes the other way and stuff like that. So we saw moments of that, but we could also kind of see him growing in, not in confidence as in like inside confidence, but confidence in that ankle, confidence in that injury, being confident enough to do the things that you naturally do and not worry about an injury happening again in that same spot. And kind of just expressing yourself the best way possible. Maddison's got an important season. He's got young ones behind him that are going to push him because they're young, they're energetic, and they're hungry, like what we've said, and they're not intimidated either. They're not intimidated by those that are in the first team. I see when they come on, they're happy to go and show what they're about and happy to have an impact on the game. So I think for Maddison, he's going to have competition behind him. He's obviously going to be the senior player. But that's where balance comes in. Yes, we've brought in a lot of youth, but we have a lot of experience as well. Just remember, again, we haven't got Bentancur. We haven't got Romero right there, Maddison's one of those experienced lots. Sonny's one of those experienced lot. There is a spine of experience there, and there is a balance of ages, right, in our squad right now. And that's great for us. But I'm really encouraged with Madders. I really think that he's going to go on a run. But I agree with every single one of the gents that have mentioned that, a striker and somebody like Ivan Toney would be. The more I think about it, the more it makes sense. In the sense of having 2 forwards, because I assume we're going to keep Richarlison, to have 2 forwards that do 2 different types of job. Do you know what I mean? They do 2 different types of job. And also I think we're allowed to kind of go out for a true number 9, because when we seen in reports that we're looking for a forward that can play in the wings or behind or as a 9, a versatile forward is called. Well, ain't Richarlison that man? He's played on the left. He's played on the right. He plays in behind as shadow striker. He's also played as a number 9. So, so we've got that guy there. So I think you can have 2 strikers. And it's about time we had 2 out-and-out number 9s out there, not only to compete with themselves, but to offer difference on the pitch. The way that they play offers us a difference in the way that Ange Ball and the Tottenham way is played too. You know, I think that's where Ange comes from as well. You know, to change the game sometimes, he'll put on somebody, and it's not changing the tactic, but the fact that he's changed the man has a different effect, or has an effect on that pitch that he's looking for.
Well, in the 61st minute, Ange made another couple of subs, Moore and Solomon coming on, Son and Johnson going off. A minute later, Jamie Donnelly, a 1-2 on the edge of the box, hit the outside of the post. He was unlucky not to get on the score sheet today. A minute later, Mikey Moore shot, beat the goalkeeper, but blocked by the back of one of the defenders. A minute later, Vissel Kobe equalised, making it 2-2. Gareth, let's come to you on this. Patrick ended up scoring, equalising for Vissel Kobe, a slight deflection off Emerson Royale after turning Skip. Skip obviously committed himself. What did you make of this goal that we conceded?
Well, it was poor, Chris. I mean, there's two players that you mentioned that I don't think their futures are here. I think Emerson, his head's in Milan. I don't think anyway, taking that away, I don't think he's a future for Spurs. I think, you know, and Ricky's backed him and tried to back him. We've all tried to back him, but let's be honest, he's not where the club wants to be. Go ahead, Ricky.
I had a joke going on in my head. Sorry, Gareth. You said his legs are. What did you say? His legs are in. What did you say?
No, his head's in Milan.
His head's in Milan, and I had his legs are in Brazil. Do you know what I mean? I just had a thing, like, so I had my own joke. So I apologize.
No wonder why you never made it to Watford, mate.
But I think you can see in these pre-season games, anyway, Emerson, I wouldn't say he doesn't care, because I think he's always tried. That's the one thing I'll give Emerson. I think he's always tried. I think he's tried his best. I just don't think he's capable of playing this style of play. I don't think his Premier League suits him, because he likes to dally on the ball, take touches. He tries the odd flick at times. He's kind of like that Brazilian. He is that Brazilian footballer that you see in sometimes a lot of South Americans don't work out in England, Chris. I know we've had some brilliant ones in England, but a lot of them tend to not work out as well. So I think Emerson, you know, they're haggling now. We're hearing that Milan are 15 million, Spurs want 20 million euros. They're not far away. I can see that being sorted out. I think Skip, although I think, again, an our boy that tries his best, I don't think he's good enough, especially with the options that we have now. I think he really needs a permanent move, Chris. I don't think an our loan suits him or the club. I don't think his future's here. I think we should try and possibly cash in whatever we get, move him on, because I mean that midfield area is crowded, and I mean if we're starting a game with Skip this year, we'll have a real injury crisis, because I just don't see how he gets anywhere near this team. But I mean it's just the same players, Chris, all the time making these mistakes. You know, Emerson's been many goals has he been in fault for in pre-season, and he's only been playing 45 minutes in these games. You know, I think he really needs moved on now. And you know, I think we've done quite well, Chris, this window. In the last couple of windows and moving players on. I think we've seen a lot change. I think you're chatting maybe 2 or 3 more have to probably go. I think Royale, Skip needs to be moved on for his own good as well. I think Ben Davis, we've seen that celebrating 10 years, you know, but realistically, is he I think he may well stay on because he's experienced and he's been here a long time, but I think we could really do with moving him on too. And we see these young players. I mean, the squad's changed so much in the last couple of years, and for the better and more positive. So I think it's a massive few weeks for the club, Chris. I know we're going to talk about the transfer window, but I think if we can get a couple out, get 2 or 3 in, I think we're probably going to end up with Eze and Tony. I think that's what we'll end up with. I think Eze is obviously the prime target. I know I spoke about it on the show on after the Hearts game. I would rather look for a proper number 9. But if Eze comes out, I'll not be disappointed, because I think with Madison in there and with our players, Kulusevski we're talking about can play that role. You know, where is that in the list of priorities? But I think Eze comes on, it's a huge signing as well. I think he's going to be brilliant for the club if he comes on. And I think the other one, as Ricky said and we spoke about, Ivan Toney just makes so much sense at the minute. He's available for, we're hearing, 40 million. Apparently wants to come to Spurs. I don't know how proofread that is, but I read a report this week on TalkSport, your favourite channel, Chris, about him looking to come on. But I think it's really important, Chris, is if we do win the rest of these pre-season games, don't celebrate too much. You might offend Gabby Agbonlahor, so we'll see.
I don't think that is hard to offend Gabby. I say that, but we are part of the TalkSport network and very proud to be the only Tottenham channel part of that network. So, yeah. On 65 minutes, Ange made another 5 subs. Phillips, Abbott, Lancashire, Spence, Devine all coming on. Gray, Porro, Emerson, Sart and Kulusevski going off. A couple of minutes later, Devine, great ball in. Lancashire couldn't quite get there. On 69 minutes, Devine had a shot on goal. Goalkeeper saved it. A minute later, Donnelly went close. Goalkeeper with a good save. On 73 minutes, Spurs, lovely football again. One-touch football, resulting in Devine shooting wide. On 77 minutes, another great crossing from the left. And surprisingly headed over. On 85 minutes, Spence, good cross in, good work from Moore, resulting in Solomon shooting over the bar. And then 2 minutes from time, Spurs getting the winner 3-2. Donnelly with a great cross into Mikey Moore, who tapped home. Paul, let's come to you on the final goal. He worked hard to get there, Mikey Moore, 16 years old. Of course, he turned 17 on the 11th of August, where Spurs can then tie him down and sign him up properly on a professional contract. There is lots of interest in Mikey Moore at the moment. A very similar question to how I asked Gareth earlier. How does Ange Postecoglou manage this situation with Mikey Moore in terms of game time? Because when you look at the Euro 2024, Spain, Yamal, playing at international level at the age of 16, absolutely incredible. What an incredible talent. Of course, Spain beating England in the final as well, and him being a big part of that, not only being part of the squad, but being part of that team, being part of the winning team, lifting the trophy. How does Ange Postecoglou manage this situation with Mikey Moore?
Well, I mean, if you're good enough, you're good enough, aren't you? I mean, Pele scored in a World Cup final when he was 17. Not saying Mikey Moore's Pele or anything, but I think the age is irrelevant. And the way he's been playing, he looks like he's performed better than our other wingers, I think, at the moment. He really, when he just seems to have really good peripheral vision. When he got that ball and knocked one through to Spence, who was just running in, it was really good. And then he had a little bit of footwork. A bit of footwork as well between his feet. Sorry about that. He's got good control. Look, Ange is very mindful, I think, of how to deal with players when they're young, and he's just going to keep them level. That's what good managers do. If they're feeling down, you just get them back to there, and if they're a bit too full of themselves, you bring him down a little bit in a nice way. But I think he's going to get some game time this year, isn't it? I mean, we've got at least 8 more games to play this year. Hopefully we'll have another 20 games if we have a good season. So there's going to be space for him.
Right, last question for you all. Let's talk about the transfer window. Your expectations for the transfer window in terms of incomings and outgoings. I know Gareth mentioned there earlier that he expects Eze and Tony to walk through the door. I think that Spurs fans would certainly say that Ange Postecoglou has been backed in this window again, if that did happen. Is that realistic? Let us know in the comments section below, or if you're watching on YouTube. Paul, let's start this round of questioning with you. The transfer window, what are your expectations? What do you expect from this window? Spurs have worked heavily on getting players out the door. They're still working on trying to get a few players out the door. What are you expecting in terms of incomings, and what will you be pleased with?
Well, I think we need to get a few more out the door. Lo Celso, Royale, Skip, Ben Davies, and we've still got too many players, I think. And until we get those cleared out, I don't think we're doing like a sell to buy thing, like a few years ago, where it was more a question of balancing the books and all that boring accounting stuff that really doesn't get the kids interested in football. It's more that we've got too many players, so we need to create space. Before the window started, I really wanted to see coming in, I wanted to see a versatile fullback that could play on either wing. A midfielder. I know people get hit up on defensive midfielders and attacking midfield. Midfielder's a midfielder, but an out-and-out striker. So if we see that, I'm quite comfortable with, now that we've got Archie Gray, that's given us more options at the back. So maybe we don't need that extra fullback. Maybe Jed Spence, the redemption story's continuing for him. That'd be cool if that's on the way up. But I would be okay with just a striker, because that's what we were severely missing last year a lot of the time. And Midfield, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think we've got a lot in there. We've got a lot in there. So I'm gonna be meager in my wants and desires and just say a striker. That'll do me.
Ricky, same question for you. And at the moment, are you very calm as a Spurs fan? Can you see all of the positives? But like myself, I think that we do have a lot of positives going on at the club, and has done well in both transfer windows so far. But there is, we are crying out for a striker, another option up front. I know you mentioned Richarlison, whether he'll go or not. Regardless of whether he goes or not, we need to bring a striker in, don't we?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think we've all been crying out for it, and we can all see it. What I expected them to kind of continue back in the manager, and what I really take encouragement from was that, like Gareth mentioned earlier about in his presser, it was like when he mentioned that, our targets are still out there. This is not time to panic. The business will get done. There was another comment that was like that he said, which was, when you don't get the answers that you want straight away, something I'm paraphrasing, but when you don't get the answers that you want straight away, that you don't run off in another direction and go, right, we're going to go for him then. Fine, we're going for him. Forget you, we're going for him. You be disciplined and you stay patient and you go for the ones that you really want. And that gives me encouragement that Ange he's got his eye on the ones that he wants. And instead of making us happy to get 3 or 4 in right now as fans, early, so that we can say we've got players in early, he would prefer to hold out for the player that he wants right now. And I think that is really encouraging. I'm calm with the transfer window because, Chris, how many seasons have we done the transfer window?
I was going to say, Ricky, we should all share that vision. Every single fan should share that vision that they must be the right players, because I know I go on a lot on these streams about, going out and spending big money. A lot of people say, oh, we need to go out and spend big. Spending big sometimes don't necessarily get you, the players that you want or give you what you want. On Ndombele, Lo Celso, £100 million between them two. We've had very little input from them two, and one's now left, on a free transfer. So it's about, they've got to be the right players. But I must say, I think that the recruitment in the last 12, 18 months has been so much better than it has been in previous years under various different managers. So you're absolutely right. I think we all need to share that vision that they've got to be the right players, rather than just, what do some people want? 5 or 6 players in through a door now, but they might not be any good.
Well, there is that, but I think sometimes you can get lost. Sometimes as a fan, you can get lost. You can get lost in the, oh yeah, okay. Because for me, it started changing ever since Paratici, came in. He had a clear 5-year plan, and obviously he's not around no more, but he's consulting. But there was a 5-year clear plan, and you look at some of the investments that he made, some of the punts that he took on Udogie, on Sarr, that are bearing fruit right now. But people will kind of look at someone like Brian Hill or a Richarlison or someone like that and kind of go, well, it doesn't really work, does it? Well, look at this. Why did we spend that money on that? Now, transfers in any window is a risk. It doesn't matter. The Man United thought it was easy money to spend 100 million on Pogba and bring him back. It didn't go so well. Do you know what I mean? They thought it was a great idea to spend 80 million on Maguire. Yeah, go, pay the money. Don't worry, pay the money, go get him. It didn't work out to their benefit, and there's very few players that when you've spent that amount of money on, that actually kind of consistently give you what you're asking for. It's still very rare that consistently they give you what you're asking for. So this is where we as fans have to kind of learn and shift and not carry the bags of the past, of the Pochettino, of the Mourinhos, of the Contes, when things wasn't happening. We can't carry that bag on our shoulder. We have to kind of, for ourselves and for our own sanity as fans, we have to kind of leave that bag where it is, because under this new regime, starting with Paratici, going into Langer, Scotty Munn, bringing in Ange Postecoglou, we're going into a new kind of 5-year cycle, 5-year period right now, where things are changing. The way that we identify the players that we want, it comes from data, but comes ultimately from what the manager's after, what the style of play is. We're not just picking up an opportunity anymore. And that's what we used to do. You used to wait to those last 2 weeks. How many times have we been here? I remember on the last day that of a particular transfer window, Chris, you probably remember the year, but I remember where there was, nothing really exciting happening throughout the window. And then on the last day, on transfer deadline day, we put in a £30 million bid for Giuseppe Rossi and Ronaldinho. And obviously, they didn't happen, right? They didn't happen. But were we after Giuseppe Rossi all of that season or Ronaldinho? I very much doubt it. There was an opportunity there. We went for it, and we all got excited for 5 minutes, and then the window slammed shut, and those players didn't come. So all of these kind of these punches in the gut that we've got as fans has numbed me up a little bit. At this stage right now, I know that the press, they're going to link us with every single player. Majority of the time, that the player that we linked with the most is not going to be the one. And Calafiore for a long time was the player that we was linked with the most. Do you know what I mean? And he's gone to another part of North London. So these things happen, So I've become a lot number and a lot calmer with what's happening. And with the change in direction with Paratici, then moving on to Langer, I've tended to trust. I put my trust into them and kind of go, no, you know what you're doing. Because Vicario, I had no clue about. Van der Ven, I personally wanted tap sober. Doggy, I didn't know about, but when we got him and he went back to Udinese on loan, I watched those highlights on YouTube every single week after a league game, and he was just growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. So once he's come in, Saar is another one. These things are paying off. We bring in a Madison. We needed a lock picker. The first thing that Paratici done was bring in Romero, who was the linchpin to start the transition of getting in defenders that we really want and that can do the job that we're after. And the biggest problem that we have faced in previous transfer windows has been getting rid of the players that don't want to be there. Do you know what I mean? Or we don't want them to be there. Look at Højbjerg last year, and bless Højbjerg. Last year was supposed to be the year. Ange said, this is not the one. We saw it in pre-season that it wasn't really working. We love what he does, but it wasn't really working for Ange Ball. But he stayed on and was 100% professional and still gave everything for that shirt, even though he was upset that he wasn't starting and wasn't an important member no more, but done it all the way up until this season. So now we are getting rid of those players. Now we're trying to shift those players first so that we are free to go at it. But we need to go at it. We need to go and get those danger men. We need to go and spend those 60, 70s on the right player. Not just for money's sake, but on that right player. Go out there and be brave. Go and look at Vlahovic. Go and look at, some of these players that we don't think are attainable. Go for it. Go for it. If you think that they're the number ones, then go for it. This is what this season's about right now. And that's what I'm expecting and hoping for in this window.
See, I'm not panicking, Some people are behaving like, no, not you, but it's like, it's 1:30 a.m. in the Kilburn National and Careless Whispers just come on and I'm having a look around and you'll do. It's like it's 11:30. The party's just getting started,
Yeah, I think the majority of guests on this channel, though, Paul, I think we're all quite calm about things at the moment. I don't know whether that will be the case. I don't know whether that will be the case on the 30th of August. Let's wait and see. But if what Gareth says is right, and we get Eze and Tony, I think that many people will be dancing around the streets. Gareth, how realistic do you think this is?
I think it's very realistic, Chris. I think Eze, there's no secret, Eze is the top target. I mean, when we've been linked with him all window, he's been at the stadium watching games. I mean, I think the groundwork's been put on. For whatever reason, there's something holding it up. Maybe it's the fact that he's been away with England, and I've heard this rumor before that Daniel Levy doesn't like signing players that he has to start paying their wages before they're available. I don't know if that's true, but the fact that he's still away with England, he has that break. Realistically, if we had signed him a few weeks ago, he's still sitting on his holidays. He's going to be played late in the window. I think, Chris, we're going to be in for a very interesting 30th of August. I think Ivan Toney is possibly your deadline day signing. I think that could go all the way to the wire. I think we're going to be sweating on that. I just think the opportunities for the strikers closing. I think Brentford are dropping the price from what I hear. And he's only got a year left in his contract. He's not going to sign. He has to go somewhere. And I just think at the moment Spurs is waiting on that, and they're waiting to see what they can get him for. Could they possibly even get him for cheaper, 30, 35 million? Who knows how desperate Brentford will be to sell him towards the end of the window. Because I think they know deep down, and we talk about commitment, his commitment to Brentford now, I think, has ceased. I think he's looking for that next move. And I think Spurs is major players in that market. So I think Eze, if you want to sort of go through it methodically, I think we'll see in the next 2 weeks, Chris, I think we'll see a lot of players moving. The likes of your Lo Celsos, your Brian Gills, possibly Skip if he goes permanently or on a loan somewhere. Emerson will go. I think that'll be the next phase. And I think the last sort of week is going to be when we play our cards. I think Eze, we know it's a release clause. So there's no negotiating to be done. It's either pay it or walk away. And I think Eze happens because, I mean, Spurs would have known for a long time about that release clause. So I think that happens possibly in the last week of the window. And I think Ivan Toney, I'm not sure about Paul's time difference, but set your clock. I think Ivan Toney could arrive at the very end of the window, Chris, and we could be on this podcast as he chatting about it. So I think that'll way it goes. The next 2 weeks, 4 or 5 leave, the squad players, and then full focus on signing Eze and Toney before the end of the window.
So we've been kicked out. We've been kicked out of the National. We're all having a kebab, getting ready for the night bus home. Ivan Toney's here. Hey!
Chris, the answer quick because I know we're going to be finishing because I know you're going to the game. I've seen a lot of comments about the number 6. I think Archie Gray as the number 6. I think that's what's happens there. I think maybe people wanted somebody more experienced, more ready to start now. But I think Archie Gray has shown already that he can play. And there he can play in different positions. He fills a lot of gaps, and he's only 18. I think he is the future. So I think the number 6 thing is gone. I think that's gone. I think it's full focus on Eze and a striker, and I think a striker will be Toney.
The 6 is he's relying on Benton Kerr, Bissouma, and Archie Gray, and then if a Skippy or one more. But yeah, you're right there, man. I think the 6 is over.
Well, keep up to date with all of the latest transfer news on this channel. Of course, there'll be regular updates. I just wanted to say before we do go that there is a game at Northampton Stadium tomorrow. Beer Lanyard are taking on the Tottenham Hotspur Legends. It is a 2 p.m. kickoff. And the Spurs Chat Podcast are proud sponsors of the Matchday programme. So if you are around in Northampton tomorrow afternoon, Sunday afternoon, do check out the Spurs Legends. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here for the very first time. We'd love to have you back in the very near future. Tell everyone all about your YouTube channel, how it started, what can people expect from it?
Serious, hard-hitting football. No, look, for me, football's about emotion. You're not going to get any XG and heat maps or anything like that. It's just I like to have a giggle about it. So it's Hotspur Hippie on YouTube. And let me just read what Chris has got here. It's also available on all major audio platforms. There we go. Yes. So come on over. Thanks for having me, Chris. It's been great. It's been great. It's been nice to chat to you guys.
Thank you so much. And it's an absolute, it's unbelievable, really, that we've kept this podcast under an hour and a half when Ricky Norwood is here. It's unreal. Can I believe it? So thanks, Paul. Thanks so much. And Ricky, what are you up to? What are you up to at the moment? Where can people find you?
People know where they can find me on Twitter. X, formerly known as Twitter. You can find me at Ricky J Norwood. On Insta, you can find me official Ricky Norwood. There's no J in that one. I've been really busy. There's been some exciting stuff happening. I just recently went back to class for 2 days. So I went to RADA to kind of jump in and learn a whole new technique. So for the last few days, it's a short course. It was on something called the Meisner technique. I won't go into it, but it was absolutely awesome. It gave me another kind of tool to use in my toolkit when I go for auditions and when I'm kind of doing self-tapes and stuff like that. So that was really, really exciting. And I took so much from that. But yeah, really busy, bro. Got meetings, got auditions, got this, that, and the other. So, but when it's something to say, of course, I'll let you and all of the fans know what's happening. But again, always an honor and a pleasure to be on. And it's been a great giggle and a great chat with all of you gents.
Well, thank you, Ricky, and we look forward to having you on again in the very near future. Gareth, what are you up to at the moment? Where can people find you?
Well, that's it. Busy at the minute, Chris, coaching, starting back now with the kids. And my podcast, obviously, on the Premier League is back as well. So pretty busy. Love being on this podcast as well, chatting Spurs and only Spurs, which is great. Unfortunately, I don't get that luxury over here. So many Liverpool fans, so many Man United fans, so many Celtic fans. So I have to try and provide something that's shared for everybody. But you can find me on Twitter at Gareth Hotspurs or on YouTube as well. Chris, thanks for having me on again. Enjoy the game today. I'm sure I'll catch up with you soon before the transfer window's over.
Well, let's hope that there is a lot of activity involving Tottenham Hotspur in the next days in the transfer market. But as we've said again today, that the youngsters have shone yet again with a bright future. But of course, we do need a new additions for now in order for Ange Postecoglou to take the club to the next level. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thank you so much for your continued support. We are nearly at 120,000 subscribers, which is absolutely incredible. So thank you so much. And this is why Paul's here. Paul, thank you so much. Ricky, thank you. Gareth, thank you. And until the next time, come on, you Spurs.
Come on!
Come on, you Spurs.